Hello everyone and welcome back to Silicon Sounds, audio for the rest of us. Today I have the distinct pleasure of reviewing yet another ddHifi product. Not that I've done that many on this channel. This is the ddHifi memory. I'll preface this by saying that this is a very good sounding set, has some quirks to it, and also has some very interesting, I would say, characteristics, and we'll talk about that during the video. I would like to title this video as Something Just Feels Right with this Unplanar Planar. So those with their ear to the business, pun is intended, in the audio space at least, and are familiar with many of the standout companies, ddHifi has to be mentioned in the same breath. They are a manufacturer of quality accessories, very high quality accessories, and earphones. From my experience, ddHifi have always produced excellent quality products, going, I should say, a step or two beyond the efforts of your typical company, both in form and in function. I remember I used to purchase ddHifi products before I believe they started really pushing their IEMs, and was always extremely impressed with their connectors, their cables, and so on. While I've had the opportunity to both try out and own many of their accessories, such as cables, adapters, etc., the memory is only my second exposure to one of their IM offerings, the first which was the ddHifi Surface, which I both love and own, actually. I personally own the Surface. I call that one of the most analog sounding IEMs I've heard. Excellent IEM. At $170 USD, the ddHifi memory is what the company calls a semi-in-ear planar headphone. All one has to do is take a look at the shape and understand where they're coming from. It's shaped like an earbud, but it has a protruding nozzle. It's something like a hybrid, which is interesting. It's packaged in an unassuming shell and looks really, as again I'll say, like a hybrid between an earbud and a traditional IEM. In terms of drivers, there's a single 13mm planar driver inside the unassuming shell. CNC'd, of course, metal shells. Here's one of the quirks. It has a captive cable. If you look carefully at the shell, there's no way to remove the cable, which is interesting. And at the end of the captive cable, it's terminated by a fat USB-C plug, which holds a DAC amp inside. So this is a fully integrated design coming in at $170. We'll talk about that even more a little bit later, utilizing a single 13mm planar driver. The decoder chip in here is a CS43189. It supports 32-bit, 384 kilohertz decoding. Pretty good at DSD as well. Some already are looking at the video and saying, captive cable, built-in DAC, with an okay chip, but not necessarily super high-end. For $170, whoa, let's watch the rest of the review. You'll understand what ddHifi has tried to do and is accomplishing here. We have other little things such as a color-coded LED. Also, it has controls here to do things such as if you want to control the output, more so for calls and whatnot. The light has 3 lighting modes as far as I know: power, DSD, or PCM decoding. Not that I'm going to be looking at it, but it's there as well. So what has ddHifi done here? Spoiler alert, in terms of integration, they have done an incredible job bringing everything together in a very musical sounding IEM. Tuning wise, we have a smooth frequency presentation with a pleasing balance between detail and being musical. Driving the memory isn't an issue, of course, because the DAC amp is built in. All it really needs is a functioning USB-C port from say a cell phone, or even a DAP that may have can be converted to just a transport. The playback can get uncomfortably loud. Pretty powerful DAC amp in here, at least with respect when mated. Well, it's permanently mated to the memory, but always remains very clean. ddHifi have obviously spent a lot of time not just integrating the components, the cable, the earphone, DAC amp, even the control, but what they've done is achieved a fantastic balance. Specs, driver configuration, 13mm planar driver. Plug is USB-C, as we can see here. I've used it on Android phone with great success. I really don't know how good that will be on an Apple iPhone, as I don't own one. DAC chip is a CS43198 for independent decoding. PCM decoding capability is up to 32-bit, 384 kilohertz, and DSD decoding capability up to DSD 256. Pretty capable. Effective frequency range 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. The inline controls for calls, recording, music, play, and pause with this simple button here. Of course, shell is a CNC aerospace aluminum, and the main cable is a reinforced braided 5N OCC wire. I will show you build and fit. It is an attractive earphone. Again, let me unfurl it a bit. It is in a very integrated setup. So you have this beautiful cable, which comes down to, at the split, after the little inline control, comes down to these two, I guess, single strands, and goes into each earphone. You have ports here. I'm not sure if they're used for venting. They could be. And you also have little holes around that could be for venting for the main 13mm planar. Build quality is very good. It feels sturdy enough. I did have some reservations about the little small joint here. Sorry, a new setup here for recording. And I didn't know how strong this was, but it's quite strong, although I will not test it. Comfort and fit, here's where things get a little complicated. It really depends on tip selection. I have a number of tips I've used with it. You need tips that have a certain amount of pliability, yet will form a complete seal in your ear canal. These nozzles do not stick out that much, and as such, you really need a good tip that will seal in order for the bass presence to really come to life. Otherwise, it will sound hollow and really unattractive. Once you get a good seal with as much insertion depth as possible, given the size of this thing, once again, a hybrid between an earbud and an IAM, more of an earbud than an IAM. And by the way, earbuds and myself may not always be friends. This one fit well, but again, tips. Spend the time looking at that. The cable, though, is typical ddHifi quality. In fact, this cable with the same USB connector exists on its own as a separate device, and I think it has a 2-pin, if I'm not mistaken. So ddHifi have used this cable before, if I'm not mistaken. It's very good. USB-C plug, seen right here, is quite sturdy, reinforced. Really, with most ddHifi products, feels like it should last a long time. All of it comes, let me move this, comes in this beautiful case with branding, ddHifi. Actually supposed to be done this way. ddHifi up top and memory embossed here. A really nice case. Open it up, has space for extra tips, I suppose, and what other accessories you may want. Really nice to have a case that's different and goes with the coloring scheme of the IEM. Or in this case, let's call this an earphone. Let's get to the sound. The bass has excellent control, tight and clean, and decent extension. It's not going to wow you at the rock bottom, down really sub-bass deep, but it will actually present it. It's definitely not an IM for bass heads, but this does not mean that it does not have bass. It does have bass. Once again, please, tip selection will go a long way in extracting the best overall sound quality of the memory, in particular of the sub bass. Deepest bass is present, but it may not be authoritative enough for some, those quote unquote bass heads, but it's quite pleasing. The mid bass is notably clean, great speed and snap. Overall bass has a balanced presentation here. We're not talking massive mid bass over sub bass, although there's just a slight emphasis here, mid bass over sub bass, but overall I would call it more of a balanced bass presentation. Again, with fantastic speed and snap. Bass detail is notable. Playing Angel from Massive Attack, you can really hear that vibrating, that vibrato, the texturing very clearly with the memory. And the bass does not bleed appreciably into the mid-range. So again, you'll have clean playback there. Bass texturing, very notable. Very well done. A lot of varies in there. Mid-range. Balanced mid-range sonics with notable vocal clarity. If you're into vocal artists, the memory should be on your list right away. In terms of presenting the vocals in a way that are very clean, clear, concise, precise, the memory does fantastic with that. Detail retrieval is good with a mix of macro and micro details. The mid-range presentation has pleasing energy without being harsh at all. Vocals are just a touch forward in the mix, both male and female, which on lesser sets may actually be grating in a way because of an uncontrolled pinna gain. The pinna gain here is moderate and well controlled, but the clarity of the vocals is standout. Timbre and texture are pleasing, and again, up to the high standards of the mid-range. I should point out that the mid-range is probably the crown jewel of the memory, even though the other parts of the frequency range are very good. Note weight and density are good, most definitely. Mind you, subjectively, at times, I felt there could be a little bit more heft or thickness to the notes, but that is subjective. That's just what I like personally. Many who I've spoken to who like this have noted that that is something that this presents quite well. Again, a subjective preference, still does very well. Layering and separation are good. Transits exhibit a sharp, rapid attack with a natural decay. The planar driver in here obviously is doing very good work. Very quick to respond and quick to stop. It's one thing to have a quick response time. It's another to have a quick ceasing the movement in order to show that quickness, that snap, and it does really well. Overall mid-range clarity is very good, again, in particular for vocals. Layering and separation are excellent here. The speed of the driver, the tuning, the clarity really allows you to hear between the instruments. Treble extends moderately well. It's not extending to the stars, to heaven, but it does extend well enough. Smooth treble presentation with nuanced highs. The treble, you can hear all these nuances, really well done. Detail retrieval is good, while sparkle and air are adequate. This is not the most sparkly and airy IEM out there, but I'm not saying that it doesn't have sparkle and air. Absolutely, it does. Just that it's not as overbearing. It's more on the natural side or the reserve side, yet still having a tendency to sound lively and just vibrant. The tuning makes the treble inoffensive yet lively at the same time, without the common excessive brightness found in some lesser IEMs that want to wow you with treble, energy. When here, especially at Silicon Sounds, it's all about overall sound quality. The treble does add spaciousness to the tracks. The treble presentation lends itself well to long listening sessions. Treble sensitive people will rejoice, not because there's no treble here, there is, but the treble that's here is so smoothly presented that it's easy on the ears, yet the detail is still there. Masterful tuning and obviously a very high quality driver and implementation. But when we talk about that with this IEM, we have to take the whole package because this is how it comes. And you can't separate A from B from C. This is how it comes and this is how it goes. Let's talk about my overall observations with respect to sound. The ddHifi memory does something that pretty much every other single planar driver equipped IEM has not done yet. At least the ones I've listened to. They haven't accomplished this. It is the most unplanar sounding planar I've ever heard. We all know that certain drive types or driver types have characteristics. At least that's what some people will try to tell you. BAs sound this way, planar sound that way. Well, with respect to balanced armatures, for example, if you've ever listened to, for example, the 64 Audio U12T, High Senior Audio T4, those completely debunk any preconceived notions or misconceptions about all BA sets, for example. If you listen saying that they don't have extension, single DD sets are limited, well, if you haven't listened to a few that I have, like the Timsock TS316, a few others, that debunked all of that foolishness. Now, I've heard a number of planar sets, and planar drivers are known for their quick response, rapid response, extended music in terms of frequency response and so on. But there's something called planar timbre or sheen, scene, and what I think are lesser quality drivers, just like BAs. Let me put it to you like this. When I first listened to the memory, I did what I usually do. I popped it in my ear before I looked at the specs. I thought that this was a high quality, very high quality dynamic driver in here. I did not know it was a planar. To be honest, the memory sounds like a very high quality dynamic based driver. And this is the impression I had when I first popped it into my ears. This is praise, by the way, as the articulate speed of the 13mm planar does come shining through in spades. So what they've done here we have an earphone that finally marries the best qualities of dynamic and planar drivers. Probably one of the best implementations of planar drivers I have heard. Is it one of the best IEMs I've heard? Not necessarily. It's fantastic sounding, particularly for the price. But in terms of a single planar driver based IEM, this really stands out in how unplanar it sounds, yet still retaining the positive aspects of that driver technology. The sound is one of balance with a level of articulate delivery that belies its price and integrated package. If you take all what we have here, the earphones, the DAC amp, the cable separately and put them together, or mix and match with different components, you may not get the actual cohesion and coherence that this integrated package will give you. But there is something that has to be said about tips, and I'm going to keep pushing that with this earphone. The only issue here really is tip selection. This is absolutely critical to extract the most performance out of the ddHifi memory. The mid-range is arguably the crown jewel of the memory, which has standout vocal clarity and a clean, smooth sound that delivers a pleasurable listening experience even for longer sessions. The few negatives, or I should say the only real negative I have with this, is that at times I would have preferred a touch more note density or note weight, but that is a subjective preference. So let's talk about technicalities. Well, imaging and soundstage. Moderate sized soundstage, more intimate than expansive, but with a good dollop of width. Again, tips make a big difference. I've had different people with different experiences with the memory, and I could really probably come down to tips as being so integrated, everyone's hearing the same equipment. So it's got to be down to tips or something else, or the quality of the source material. I heard that instrument placement was very accurate, good width. In fact, sometimes surprisingly good width. I put on He's a Karaoke by Eden Atwood, a high quality DSD file that I had, and definitely the width showed itself quite apparently well beyond the ears. With pleasing height and depth present as well, just in smaller quantities, but it wasn't distracting. Notable instrument spacing and separation, layering and instrument separation are quite pleasing. So what's the conclusion here for the ddHifi memory? Well, ddHifi, if you ever watch this, you guys really went out on a limb here with the memory. At its price point, 170 US, releasing such an integrated package may lead some to construe it as limiting. It could have fallen flat. but I am here to confidently tell you that the memory is a triumph, in particular in the integration of both form and function. I now fully understand the design rationale, as the memory serves the needs of those who may not appreciate the added bulk of carrying a separate component, a separate DAC amp with them, yet will not compromise on quality of sound. Nothing could be simpler than plugging this into your cell phone and just enjoying very high quality sound without the need of a third component apart from your cell phone and the memory, which would be a DAC amp. From its smooth musical playback to its obvious quality of manufacture and pleasing looks, ddHifi have a clear winner with the memory. If the memory or this kind of form factor and this level of integration suits what you're looking for, you would be well advised to look into the ddHifi memory and put that on your short list. I want to thank you very much for joining me for this video, this review of the ddHifi memory. Look forward to more videos coming through. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about Silicon Sounds. And we will be back shortly with other videos. Once again, see you again soon from Silicon Sounds. Audio for the rest of us.